Last year, a group of researchers did something most of us would never even think to do. They examined brain tissue from people who had passed away. And what they found had simply never been seen inside a human skull before, in all of history. Tiny fragments of plastic. Brain tissue contained far higher concentrations of these particles than liver or kidney tissue from the same people. And samples from patients diagnosed with dementia showed noticeably more than samples from those who weren't. Nobody is claiming plastic causes dementia. That link hasn't been proven, and may never be. But something brand new is sitting inside the organ that holds your memory and your independence, and almost nobody can tell you how it got there. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where it's coming from, why a celebrated 2017 discovery may have quietly made things worse, and 3 changes you can make this week. If you've been following along with our Lake Mead and Lake Powell water level updates, you know exactly how I work. I don't just give you the headline, I dig into what's actually going on underneath it. Tonight we're doing that same deep dive, but this time it's not about water levels out west. It's about something a lot closer to home, literally the plastic in our oceans. In the air we breathe indoors, and now, it turns out, in our own brains. Here's the scale of what we're dealing with. Scientists studying ocean pollution estimate there are more than 5 trillion individual pieces of plastic currently floating in the world's oceans, and the overwhelming majority of those pieces are smaller than a pencil eraser. Most people picture the so-called Great Pacific Garbage Patch as a floating island you could practically walk across. It isn't. Oceanographers describe it more like a thin, swirling soup, spread across an area larger than the state of Texas, made up almost entirely of these tiny fragments rather than visible trash. Because sunlight and wave action don't let plastic biodegrade the way a banana peel does. Instead, it photodegrades, breaking into smaller and smaller pieces with no real endpoint. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch isn't just sitting there, it's actively growing, but it's also become the focus of one of the largest cleanup efforts ever attempted. The Ocean Cleanup, a non-profit founded by a young Dutch inventor, has deployed massive floating systems that act like artificial coastlines, corralling debris so ships can haul it away. As of recent reports, they've removed millions of pounds of plastic from that patch alone, and they're now combining ocean cleanup with intercepting trash at river mouths before it ever reaches the sea, since most ocean plastic starts on land. Other groups are testing drone surveillance to map debris fields in real time. And some companies are experimenting with turning recovered ocean plastic into sunglasses, clothing, and even car parts. Progress is real, but so is the math. Cleanup crews are removing plastic far slower than new plastic is entering the water. It's a bit like mopping a floor while the faucet's still running. The faucet is the part we actually control. Here's the part almost nobody covers. While the ocean story gets the headlines, with images of seabirds and sea turtles, researchers studying indoor air and household dust have found that for most Americans, especially those of us who spend more time at home, the largest share of daily microplastic exposure doesn't come from the ocean at all. It comes from inside your own living room. Synthetic carpets, couch cushions, curtains, and clothing made from polyester and nylon shed microscopic fibers constantly. Every time you walk across a rug, run a dryer, or sit down on the sofa, that fiber settles into household dust. And household dust is something we breathe and swallow every single day, often without ever opening a window. Now, if you followed environmental news a few years back, you might remember a story that made headlines everywhere in 2017. A researcher in Spain named Dr. Federica Bertocchini was cleaning out beehives and noticed that small wax worms had chewed clean through a plastic bag in just a few hours. It turned out these worms naturally produce an enzyme to digest beeswax. And that same enzyme happens to break down the chemical structure of polyethylene, the most common plastic on Earth. The discovery made global news. For a while, it looked like nature had handed us a real fix for the plastic crisis, and research money poured into the idea of scaling up that enzyme for industrial use. But here's what most of that coverage left out. And it's a textbook example of what scientists call an unintended second-order consequence. Researchers who followed up by studying exactly what happens to the plastic once these worms process, it found that the material wasn't disappearing. It was being broken down into dramatically smaller fragments, nanoplastics, particles measured in billionths of a meter. Picture taking a sledgehammer to a car windshield. The big, obvious problem in front of you is gone, but now you've got thousands of invisible shards scattered everywhere, and those are far harder to clean up and far easier for a body to absorb. That distinction matters enormously, because nanoplastics are small enough to slip past the blood-brain barrier, the protective filter that's supposed to keep foreign material out of your brain. A 2024 study out of Columbia University, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, tested popular bottled water brands and found an average of roughly 240,000 detectable plastic particles per liter, with the vast majority being nanoplastics, the exact size capable of crossing that barrier. And this connects directly back to where we started tonight. Researchers at the University of New Mexico examined brain, liver, and kidney tissue donated by people who had passed away, and found that brain tissue consistently contained far higher concentrations of these particles than the other organs from the same individuals, and that samples from people with a documented dementia diagnosis contained meaningfully more than samples from people without one. To their credit, the researchers themselves are cautious here. Correlation is not causation, and the medical and aging research community is still years away from understanding whether this accumulation contributes to cognitive decline, simply reflects it, or is a separate marker of how thoroughly plastic has worked its way into modern life. What isn't in dispute is that this material is building up in human tissue at levels nobody measured a generation ago. And according to widely cited global projections, plastic production itself is on pace to roughly triple by the year 2040. So what do you actually do with all of this? Here are 3 specific, doable changes. First, take an honest look at your daily water habit. If bottled water has become part of your routine, switching to filtered tap water stored in glass or stainless steel is one of the highest impact changes you can make, based directly on that Columbia University research. A simple countertop or pitcher filter costs very little, and the switch alone can meaningfully reduce your daily intake. Second, think about the dust in the rooms where you spend the most time, especially your bedroom. Running a genuine HEPA air purifier in that room for a few hours a day captures a real share of the synthetic fibers circulating in the air. And when items like couch cushions, curtains, or bath mats wear out and need replacing, choosing natural fibers such as cotton, wool, or linen means they shed far less of this material than polyester or nylon. Third, rethink how you heat and store food. Avoid microwaving in plastic containers, and keep plastic wrap from touching food directly when it's hot, since heat dramatically increases how much plastic transfers into what you eat. Glass and ceramic containers cost a bit more upfront, but last for years. How much any of this matters for you personally may depend on your health history, your home, and your budget, and that's worth being honest about. But each of these is something you can start today, at very little cost. Here's why any of this matters beyond tonight. The independence so many of us are working hard to protect in the years ahead, the ability to think clearly, manage our own affairs, and stay fully present with the people we love, depends on the health of an organ that scientists are only now discovering carries this uninvited passenger. Looking after your cognitive health and your overall wellness isn't just about crossword puzzles and daily walks anymore. It's also about paying attention to what's quietly building up in the background of an ordinary life. If something in this video surprised you, or if you've already made changes like these in your own home, leave a comment and tell me about it. I read through every one. If you know someone, a sibling, a friend, an adult child setting up their first place, who could use this information, send this their way. And if you'd like more honest, research-based conversations like this one, subscribe. Thank you for spending this time with me.